This conference will now be recorded.
192.02D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and second. I'll call for the vote. Counselor Brennan.
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd.
Tim, yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry.
Okay, we're coming out of executive session right now. And we have,
Also unexecutive now.
You're in charge.
yeah, that's right. We appointed you to solve all the problems. So yeah, we're going to be coming out of executive session and, but we are going to, at this point, actually adjourn our regular session for a meeting of the budget committee, which is going to start at 5:30. So at this time, if anybody needs a break, take it because the budget committee will be coming in.
What's this update on?
Nope, nothing particularly big.
So I don't, well, we can't even discuss any of it. Thank you.
This is some swag for you guys that I picked up at a little conference.
Can we get a pair of scissors?
I'm sorry, you have to, this is, I just figured
Thank you, Ann. You're so thoughtful.
this I love.
Did you want to take the heart off?
Boy, you learned quick, Sarah. I've got one on my golf cart that says I love parks. When I was on the park commission, been there for 10 years.
Welcome, budget committee members. You can come up and join us up here. Just grab a seat if you would.
Budget committee?
Yes, we just are here. We
She's not
just had
coming.
another little meeting, but you're welcome to come and join us.
Come up here, Laura. I'll move up closer to Brad, but not too close. I know.
No, I don't have my application.
Hey, you smell like an old sock.
Where's Rick?
So copy of the agenda, along with general order of meetings,
Oh,
budget committee meeting agenda, and then your script for the thing, and then copies of the
Oh, that's
things
right,
that
because
will
it
be
goes
signed
in the
tonight, and
fridge.
then
Yeah, I forgot.
ones that will be signed on the 23rd.
Excellent. Okay, we'll just wait a moment here first.
Pen, did I bring it? I was just gonna say, I think I have one.
Since you had expressed interest in the finance committee
Oh.
findings, I just brought you a copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And on, okay, everything looks good.
Okay. Joseph,
Mhm.
this was a public comment from the other nights.
I'll keep it on
Wasn't really
file.
a public meeting, or, an official meeting, but.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Melissa.
So we'll wait till Gary comes back.
Touch base with you after.
So-
We have a break.
Well,
Otherwise, I'll.
Which number for the quorum for this meeting, the budget meeting?
Long meeting.
So Gary, I went out.
Full council?
We've reached that.
Okay, great, thank you.
These will be interesting.
Oh. So we met about 72 times.
Finding.
Oh, neat, yeah. That would be interesting to take a gander at.
Okay, everyone, welcome. We're going to be convening a regular session of the Budget Committee here on Wednesday, June 18th at 5:30 PM. And we're going to begin with our call to order. Counselor Brennan?
Here.
Counselor Burns?
Here.
Counselor Pogwizd? Committee Member Mason?
Here.
Committee Member White? No, Mickey, what's your?
Walker.
Walker, Committee Member Walker, sorry, I forgot. Counselor Lovendall?
Here.
Counselor Webb?
Webb present.
Okay. Do we say the Pledge of Allegiance again, or can it count that our council
done it
already
once.
said it, so if you committee members don't mind, we'll just go on.
Lost your allegiance in that half hour. Your second one doesn't matter.
Right, okay.
What part would you cut out?
Okay, so now we're moving on to the budget items. So it turned out, in our last meeting, we voted on the public safety fund and the general fund. And at the time that we did on those votes, Counselor Brennan had recused herself from the vote. And since we didn't have enough people, or since we were close to the quorum level, her recusal meant that we didn't have enough vote in the quorum. Is that a good way to say it, Joseph?
We didn't have a quorum.
We didn't have an official
We
quorum.
did have a quorum, it's just with one member recusing themselves, we didn't have enough to pass the vote.
For those
That was a
topics.
no vote. Recusal's a no vote.
Right.
Yeah. So at this time, we have to revisit those two budget items is what our number 2 is. Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the public safety fund budget for the fiscal year 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. Counselor Brennan? Yeah. Counselor Burns?
Yes.
Counselor Pogswood?
Tim, yes.
Committee Member Mason?
Yes.
Committee Member Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Lovendall?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Webb, yes.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the general fund for fiscal year 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Counselor Webb?
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall?
Yes.
Committee Member Walker?
Yes.
Committee Member Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd?
Tim, yes.
Counselor Burns?
Yes.
And Counselor Brennan?
Yes.
Okay. So the next item we have on our agenda is we need to have a hearing on our proposed supplemental budget. Now, did people get that in the mail? Is that what we?
It was noticed, with the correct amount of notice, on our website and around town.
Okay. But did you guys get to see that supplemental budget item? Was it
I
sent out
neglected to look at the website.
a link?
That's-
Anybody look at the link?
I have not seen it.
Okay. It's in, for the counselors, I believe it's at the end of our budget. And there, in short, what happened is we have to do a supplemental budget for things that were a little bit different than, that from the budget last year. And in short, the pieces that we had to amend are that we got these big grants for the community building. And so we didn't have those in the Parks Committee budget. And then also, we just got another grant that goes into the Parks Committee. That's going to be for the renovation of the visitor center. So we put those have to be added. So,
It's actually for counselors, it's in the new business section, section 12G is the resolution for the supplemental budget, but the information is attached.
Right.
Therein.
so I think counselors have seen it, but maybe counselors could share it. Sarah, do you want to share it with Mickey? And here, I can share mine with you, Laura, just to take a look if you want to for this
Old one.
sake of knowing what you're looking at.
Do you want this one for her?
There you go.
Oh, she got it. She got it. She got it.
I think this is it's the same thing that we had.
Oh,
It's the same, we got the same one last time.
So just we can discuss it, but I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed supplemental budget for fiscal year 25.
So moved.
Second.
So do we have any further discussion about that topic? you guys have a chance? I know it's a quick thing to ask you to process, but really it's only 2 changes that have to do with those grants. So,
It's the same amount in as the same amount out.
Yeah. And it's kind of a funny thing about grants, as we described, it kind of makes it look like you've got this huge budget, but it's in and out. So,
We've been, at the port, it's been $10 million and we don't have $1 million.
Oh,
right, you don't have any money to
We don't even have one of them.
buy a
you know,
shoelace, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's call for the vote then.
Yeah.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Webb,
Web, yeah.
Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Committee Member Walker,
Yes.
Committee Member Mason.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then with that, I just want to, again, thank you, committee members, for joining us on this budget process and for coming to this extra meeting. We really appreciate you guys and hope that we will see you again as we continue to work on these budget things and again next year. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll adjourn the budget meeting. Okay.
All right.
Thank you both.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Appreciate it.
Very much.
Okay. So we now are supposed to be reconvening for our regular business meeting, but no earlier than 6 o'clock. So
Correct.
now
We
we
have a
have
few
to take
minutes.
a break until 6 o'clock. So we have some time.
25 minutes,
Yeah.
23 minutes,
Yeah.
22 minutes.
You can read
22
your-
minutes.
You can read your packet.
I already did.
You had a meeting last night over here already, I know.
Every night I've had a meeting this week.
Yep,
Every night.
yep.
Brett, how do you do that? Oh my gosh, I remember
Not
I
very
was
well,
trying to
'cause
call
I'm
you
late,
to
I
check
can't
in, and
read.
every time I called you, you were at a port.
It's terrible.
All right, while the council goes to recess, I will be pausing the recording and turning off the mics at home, but citizens of Port Orford can rest assured we will not be discussing any business during that time.
Joseph will get on our case.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, everyone. I am going to, at this point, reconvene our session of the City of Port Orford Common Council at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, June 18th. And I'm going to add one item to the agenda, propose to add one item to the agenda under new business, which would just be, we've had a discussion through the years about whether all of the right-of-way applications should come to the city councilors or not. And, or if we should just allow staff to make the decisions and bring them to us if they think it merits a higher level of discussion. So why don't we put that onto the agenda for HI 13I, and we can just have a brief conversation. And if people feel comfortable with that, we can do that. Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? Anything? Okay, well then let us begin with citizen concerns for agenda items. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to make a citizen comment? Okay, hearing, oh yes, please come up to the mic and state your name and address and your comment. And
Okay.
yes, we have a 3-minute limit. Thank you for reminding me.
Actually, I just have a question, and it's about the traffic study we had a few months ago and what came of that. And was it determined that there wasn't a need for photography at the stop on the main street and that kind of thing? That was the upshot. I think it was a question of whether or not we should have cameras in town.
Yeah.
And I never heard anything more about it. But
Yeah, I think we had the results of the study came back. And I'll just mention, this is not usually a time for back and forth, but since it's such a good question, I will answer it if nobody minds briefly. It came back and it turned out that that there was not as much traffic as people thought on Jackson. There was a little bit more traffic or speeding on the Loop Road and on Highway 101. As part of the Finance Committee considerations, we thought about, well, could we use a traffic radar situation to catch speeders, things like that. And we talked to, because the state of Oregon recently changed its law to allow cities to use traffic radar kind of things to, what's the word, for citations and such. Chief Hobart contacted the company again, and it turns out that the law in Oregon requires there to be 2 photographs, one of the license plate and one of the person's face. And the company that we had talked with initially did not have a setup to do the 2 camera situation. And so at that point, we did not pursue it further. So that's kind of where that ended up. If you recall, when we were having a discussion about it, there was also some concern of people not really liking kind of the surveillance aspect of that. But it could come up again if we figured out the technology. But that's where that's at now.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, do we have anybody online that wanted to make a comment?
Seeing no one commenting and no one raising their hand.
Okay,
We have lots of people online, but no one seems to want to comment at this time.
okay. Seeing no comments, we will move on to our public hearing regarding state revenue sharing. Oregon budget law requires the Budget Committee and the City Council to hold a hearing on the probable use of state revenue sharing funds. These are the kind of the funds we get from liquor store proceeds and marijuana sales and such. Tonight will be the second public hearing concerning the budget, and the Common Council shall conduct a public hearing on the proposed uses of state revenue sharing funds, and if the City of Port Orford should vote to receive them. So at this time, pursuant to ORS 221.770, I will open the public hearing in order to give the citizens of Port Orford the opportunity to comment on the use of state revenue sharing funds in the City of Port Orford's budget for fiscal year 25-26. If there are any members of the public wishing to comment on the proposed use of state revenue sharing for fiscal year 25-26, we ask them to testify now. Is anyone interested? If you're interested to testify, please let that be known. Anyone in the room? Anyone online? Has the staff received any written testimony on this topic? Okay. Hearing or seeing no citizens wishing to testify, I'll close the testimony portion of this hearing. And if there is no further discussion, is there any further discussion by councilors? I'll close the public hearing at this time. Okay. So let's see, where is that now? So now we have the council deliberation on this matter, which is, okay, do we pass it later? It looks like on the, it does say council vote under 9E, but I think is it?
Council vote to basically accept it as a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
We'll actually vote on it later.
Yes, but the resolution will be approved later.
Okay, so at this point, we just entertain a motion to
Formally close the hearing and to approve taking the use of shared revenue to a resolution.
okay. So, okay.
Second.
Okay, I will call for the vote then. Councillor Lovendall.
Yes.
Councillor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Councillor Brennan.
Yes.
Councillor Pogwiz.
Yes.
Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Okay. We will move on to departmental reports. Administrator Radcliffe. Do you have any updates beyond your written report, or does anybody have any questions for Administrator Radcliffe's report? Yeah.
The only update I would have is that I will be attending the city administrators conference, summer conference in Bend. I'll be gone on the 7th through the 10th of July for that conference. So
Wonderful.
I'm actually getting to help lead a conference or lead a session for new city managers too. So that's kind of fun to be able to be part of that and
Is that in
to
Sun
share
River?
my,
Is that in Sun River?
in Bend. It's not in Sun River. No. Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting. We'll see.
Great. I'm
Just wanna
really,
let you know that.
yeah, I'm really glad that you're going to be able to have that training opportunity and opportunity to, yeah, learn from.
There's a lot of good things on the agenda
Well,
that are
you're
relevant.
connecting with other new, you're mentoring new, that's the future, you're cultivating the future. I think that's
Right.
great. Thank you for.
Well, and I'm learning still too, obviously. So it's I think it'll be great. So
Excellent. Let's see, did you want to mention the staffing? I guess we
yeah,
have
I
saw
mean,
the
people that
staffing.
have questions, but
Yeah.
we are very excited because we have the new utility clerk starting next week. So Marissa Clausen. And so folks who she's coming to us from Coast Community Health. So if you were ever at Coast Community Health, checked in with the very lovely, very kind, very competent woman there. She is now going to come work for us. So we're very excited about that. And we also are excited about another new hire, Josh Weidman. He will be coming to us July 1st. He has recently passed his level 2 certifications for wastewater treatment. And so he will be over in the at wastewater treatment plant. And so our public works will be fully staffed up, which is wonderful. And we will also be staffed up in City Hall. So we're very excited to have, there's plenty of work. So it'll be nice to have other folks to be able to come in and join our team. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay, and then the next report is just my mayor's report. I kind of put a few things in there that I've been working on, continuing in the vein of grants and water stuff primarily that I've been working on, as well as budget things that we've all been working on. Moving on to finance.
This is the information given to us by Ann Heath, these first sort of budgets versus actual for the general fund, parks as it goes through, and then the reconciliations through April. So again, she was away for a good part of April and May, and so we got caught up to May, so that was good. So she'll continue working on that when she comes again next month.
Excellent. And I just wanted to say I appreciate noticing that many of our funds have come in under budget. And I know that's owing to you being very careful with spending money
Well,
this
we're
year. So
trying.
thank you.
Yeah, if things will stop breaking, we'd be good. But yeah. I guess I do have one more thing, and I know Superintendent John Isidore might mention this, but talking to the Public Works fellas, speaking of a break, we had a break that happened on the Hamlet this weekend. So I wanted to say thank you for them for taking part of their weekend to go do that. And then especially on Father's Day, those poor fellas were out doing all that. So we appreciate them. And because McCowan is the name of the lab that we've always used in Coos Bay, if we have a leak, we then, once it's pressure to back up, we take the water sample, we drive it up as soon as they're open again to Coos Bay. It takes at least 24 hours for them to get through that testing, and then it has to incubate for 24 hours to see if any coliforms grow. And then once they deem that the water's safe, then they tell us, and then we can go out and physically hang the door hangers that say you can use your water normally back out on people's doors. That's how it normally worked. But because McCowan themselves have something going on, they've had to now, we still take our samples there. It's still the same amount of money, but they have to take it to a different lab because something happened with their lab. Something has changed. They're getting that worked on. It now has to go another step to a different lab, and that's being a bit of a delay. And so what used to take 2 days is now we're looking at more like 3 days or until they talk to us. So normally we had that, but it's been a little bit more delayed. Yes, sir.
I heard from John Isidore just a little bit before this meeting started. He heard back from McAllen Labs, and the boil water notice that was in effect earlier this week is now no longer in effect.
Perfect. Okay, so that was we were hoping. So that boil water notice has been lifted. People will go and our staff will go and hang the notices on the doors that say that water can be used regularly. We suggest people turn on their faucets, let their pipes flush out, just to be extra cautious about that, and then they can use the water normally. So again, we thank you for your patience. And again, our public works staff is great.
They were
Absolutely.
awesome. I lived there and they were awesome. They were there till 2 a.m.
They were.
Oh my gosh.
So
Thank you.
that's the only update I have.
Okay. Thank you. So we are on to Public Works then. Mr. Isidore, are you here?
I am. How are you?
Good. And thank you for getting your report into the packet. That's really appreciated. What have you got for us? Any highlights?
No, the only thing I'll mention is I'm working with Civil Wits, as you know, Ann, and Tina, and we have a site visit next week. We're hoping the guy's got pneumonia right now, but we're trying to get the Veolia, who's going to supply the temporary water plant for pre-treatment of Garrison Lake when we switch over and we do the dredging. It's been a complicated, long process, and we're still working through a lot of the questions, but that should happen maybe next week or the week after. And that's like the biggest thing kind of going on right now.
Okay.
Did we get any RFPs for the dredging back?
It's not gone out yet.
Oh.
And basically, because we have a grant through Business Oregon, they have to like check all the public contracting and all that stuff. Like there's lots of T's to cross and I's to dot. So we're still going through that
Okay.
little hoop.
They're still in the planning phases and the engineering piece to say what is feasible. And again, just to remind, this is so that when we're actually doing the dredging of our regular reservoir, that during that time, when that is offline, there is another alternate water source that we used to use, which was Garrison Lake. So they have to do all the testing, make sure it's okay, bringing in this, talking about what they would need to do to pre-treat the water before it goes into our regular water treatment plant. So it's a very complicated, multi-pronged problem that we're working through. So
Do we have the infrastructure to already set up from the lake to the plant?
that's what I'm saying.
No, that's all part of the walkthrough, Gary, is figuring out whether we're going to put the plant at Pinehurst or set it up at the water plant. There's some issues with Pinehurst location because of where we can't backwash over there without putting in a 20,000 gallon tank and then bleeding off the clean water and then separating solids. So hopefully, in my preference, it would be at the water plant and we'd pump to it and then go from the pre-treatment into the plant itself at the water plant. Best scenario, we still got to figure out how we're going to get a 300 amp hook up over there to run this thing. There's a lot of moving pieces to this. I'd be surprised if we get it all in place prior to the end of the window, but we might. We're trying hard.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Yeah, and this is one of those things I will just say, we've been trying to get this, trying to line it up to get it done. And it's
3 years now.
Yeah. And it's just so many things to get lined up that, anyway, thank you for working on that, John. And thank you to your staff, to echo Melissa's, thank you guys for working so late, or thank your staff for working so late the other night.
I will. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for John? No. Okay, next on the agenda, planning. Anything to report? No, okay.
Everything is in the report.
Okay, then moving on to liaison reports. Sarah, anything from Parks?
And we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't meet. We're going to have a special meeting and deal with an ongoing issue.
Okay. I do want to mention, this is not really a Parks thing, but we didn't mention it earlier, which is, I think there was notice given that that Main Street Port Orford got this amazing grant to renovate our visitor center. And so that's kind of that's sort of in the realm of a park. So anyway, I just want to thank Main Street for, it's a collaboration between the Main Street and the city, but Main Street did a lot of work on that. So anyway. Okay, emergency preparation liaison report.
So I just handed everybody the May report, and it's basically we're asking or suggesting that the Emergency Preparedness Commission be decommissioned and turned into a community group similar to the Watershed and Main Street. And we can still liaison with the council, but there was just so much structure involved in being in a city entity that we feel this is going to be a better way to go. And it's explained here, and there'll be more. We'll try to bring it into the next month's meeting.
Okay, so we'll consider that officially at the next month's meeting. Okay, thank you so much, Gary, for all your work on all of that stuff, which is so important for our community. Historic preservation, I've kind of been just doing that the liaison, it seems, and I'll just quickly say they are doing a lot of different things. They're proceeding with their Hamlet survey that's in progress. They're getting ready to place a stone at the site of the Lindbergh House. That's coming along. I don't know if we ever announced that the jail actually got the National Historic Landmark designation.
I don't think in this meeting we have.
Yeah, so that's kind of an exciting thing they got.
Mhm.
And they're also working on the sign for the Fort Point overlook at right-of-way area. So anyway, that's that one. Okay, port liaison.
Lots going on at the board. There's some delays with the cranes. There's been some delays. The tariff thing was significant, where we had to kind of stop and figure out where we were going to come up with some more money. But then that kind of ended up not coming to fruition. And then the construction was double the original estimate.
Oh my
The construction cost more than doubled in a matter of 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
But today, where the port is decommissioning the fuel tanks, the whole fuel system is being decommissioned and removed from the ground. Griff's, the restaurant is gone now. That was something that a lot of people had some heartfelt comments to offer, but there was nothing that we could do with that building. It just is in what's called a velocity zone, and you can't build there, and you couldn't even get a permit to put another sink in.
I remember that time when the wave came over and kind of washed it.
Yeah.
practically.
So that's gone, and there's been the recent election brought some changes to the board. Two of the members resigned after the election, and one of them was the chairman, and with him went a lot of the work that he'd been doing on the construction. He was kind of the construction lead, and so things got a little bit confusing, but our new administrator is doing a fabulous job, and Catherine Scobie, can't say enough about her. Performance is just fabulous, and moving ahead slowly but surely. That's about it. I mean, I could say all kinds of rotten stuff, but I'll keep that to myself.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, I'll just give a brief watershed liaison report. The Watershed Council is going to be doing some work down at the Battle Rock Bioswale to try to keep that maintained, and so we appreciate them for doing that. The fire liaison report?
Nothing really. I was out of town.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Well, so now we are moving on to the public hearing on our housing code revisions. So to remind you, As you know, we've been working on this update to our code for several months following, I think, a whole year of work by the Planning Commission. And so we are going to open up a public hearing for this process right now. And what we're going to do is take comments. If anybody has testimony, we'll close this time at this meeting. We've kept the hearing open. We're going to close testimony, and then we're going to deliberate and close the hearing. And then after that, we will vote on it. Okay. And is the vote at this time, Joseph, or is it later in the?
It's the next item.
Okay. On the agenda. It's in the old business. Got it.
Formally adopting the ordinance language.
Okay, so that's kind of the order of affairs. So with that, I am now opening the public hearing on our zoning codes update. And if anybody at this time would like to testify, please come up to the front of the room. Is there anybody online that would like to testify? Okay, hearing no interest in testifying. I mean, we have had this open for a long time, so we will, at this point, close testimony, and I will open it up for council deliberation. As you know, we have gone through this stack of changes. We did it over a course of several meetings. We went through the first part, then the second part, made some revisions and changes. Crystal, Shoji, and Joseph, I think, put them all together so that we had an opportunity to have a clean copy. Thank you so much for that. So at this point, yeah, is there anything further anybody wants to say? Okay. With that, I'm going to, I think, then close the hearing, and we will move on to new business, to old business, which is to consider ordinance 2025-01.
And I'll move to pass or approve the ordinance 2025-01, housing and zoning codes updates.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Counselor Brennan.
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Counselor Pogwizd.
Tim, yes.
Okay. Well, this has been a huge undertaking project, and I see Planning Commissioner Thielen in the audience, and I know Sarah, you, Counselor Lovendall, you served on the Planning Commission too, so I just want to really thank the Planning Commission and Planning Department for all the work that went into that.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's fabulous. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next item, revising Port Orford's municipal code regarding short-term rentals. And you'll see that these are some minor amendments that we're going to make that are kind of to bring the short-term rental code to make it align with what we just passed. There's a memo in here. It explains we're basically making it clear that we don't want ADUs, manufactured dwelling units, or units in manufactured dwelling parks, and units in cottage clusters to not be short-term rentals, and also the change in the description of the ID, that you have to use government-issued ID instead of driver's license. So I would entertain a motion to pass this, approve
So
this.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
I guess I didn't have a handle on that ID thing. Can you?
Yes, we'll have the discussion. So if you look at the memo, it explains it pretty clearly. So apparently the
11B, it's page 16. It looks like a couple pages before new business.
you're supposed to use
B, if you look at that
Yes, right here, right here, right here, right here.
We had in our original SDR license, or our original SDR code, that you need a copy of your driver's license or an ID card if you wanted to prove use, like a residential use. Like, remember in that code, there's a thing
Yeah.
like where if you live in it, you could rent out your room.
Right, right.
Didn't count. Well, apparently one of the law enforcement officers pointed out that a government issued ID, that it would be better to define it as a copy of a government issued ID showing your current address instead of as your driver's license, because not
Oh, in
everybody.
other
Not
words,
everyone has a driver's
Driver's license.
license,
okay,
so
so it doesn't exclude a driver's license, but it
Correct.
includes other forms.
it's more inclusive.
Thank you. That's plenty for me.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, then I'll call for the vote. Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, no.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on then to 11C, Ordinance 2023-03, which is, oh, sorry, 2020, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm a little bit hungover to this. I don't know why, but from so many meetings, maybe.
Could be we're tired, yeah.
2025-03, which
Move
is,
to approve 2025-03, increasing
Second.
T-tax rate post 7%.
okay, first and second, and this is the second reading of this, right?
And then do we, so we get to keep more, I found the sheet that I was writing it on. We get for the general fund gets more than the 3?
The way it
It
works,
gets 4 now?
yeah, the way it works is that we had grandfathered in, when this whole thing started, way back in like the 2000s, 6% was what it started with. So that amount was grandfathered in.
Oh,
At a later time, we increased it by 1%. And by that time, the state had changed the rules. So that 1% is split 70-30.
okay.
So now we are proposing to increase it again. And so the 4% now
Yeah,
is
it
going to
makes
get
sense
split.
now. Perfect sense. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
But I am going to say, it's a little bit, well, it's a little bit more relevant for the next part of this, but the legislature is actually right now considering some changes. So we're hoping to continue on the path of this second reading, but we may have to make a little adjustment in the next one anyway.
Um,
I'll talk about it in the next one. Let's finish this one.
Thank you.
We've got a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Okay. So now we're on to 11D, Ordinance 2025-04, clarifying Port Orford Municipal Code 308 TLT procedures and funding. And what I was saying is here is where it specifies the ratio, the 70-30 split, with 70% is supposed to go towards tourism promotion through the Tourism Promotion Agency for Port Orford, which is Main Street, and 30% can come to the city to be used. But we are aware that the legislature is considering now, I believe it's like a 60-40, or is it a 30 switching the 30-70?
So they're switching it, completely flip-flopping it, which will give the cities 60% to use as they need for policing or
Because
just
the
about.
10
General
increases it
fund.
so
Yeah.
much that the 40 is as much as the 60
Well,
or whatever.
And 40 would go towards advertising.
Gotcha.
Because the bigger cities it's turning into like hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're spending on advertising. It's much more than they absolutely even need to
It's kind of
advertise.
wasteful.
Yeah.
yeah, and there's just been a very big controversy about it, in that cities say, hey, we want to have the discretion because, some years we really need this, and are also recognizing that when in summer, when cities get so many more tourists and use water or police services or any of those things that, it makes sense for us to be able to use more.
Is that on the same bill as, they might have decided that today.
I think it was on the House
Was it on
floor.
that same bill as,
Can't remember the number.
It's in
but
progress. I think it's going for a big vote soon, but I don't think it's going to be done until the very end. So anyway, but we can move forward with this. I asked Joseph if we should wait until the next time or just move forward with this, and then we can just make the adjustments to the numbers next time. And that's kind of the more efficient thing to do since this is already the second reading. So with that, I would entertain a motion that we approve ordinance 2025-04 clarifying Port Orford's municipal code for TLT procedures and funding.
So moved.
Second.
there's no way it's going to cause us to slow down should we decide to correct it. Still think this is the faster way to what, I mean, given the uncertainty.
Well, all we would have to do, given the uncertainty, I believe, is come back and change the numbers.
And
Because-
amend it. Mhm.
Whatever the ratio is, we'll stick in there.
I think it's better to lock in what we have and what we want to do for our own selves here, and then whatever they do, every city in the whole place is going to have to change their things that based on the legislative decision. So probably better to have it done now.
I think we're only going to have to change
Just that, whatever.
paragraph C basically and change the percentages.
Mhm.
So
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Counselor Pogwizd,
Kim, yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So now we are moving on to item 12E, or, yeah,
11E.
it's on the agenda, it's 12, and here it's 11. Somehow there's a little bit of a disparity. So it's the employee handbook regardless.
I would make a motion to approve the employee handbook.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Nope. Okay, I'm going to call for the,
Can I
Oh, yes,
interject
please
something,
do.
please? Okay, the only thing, one of the questions that came up was that it needed to have, or a concern that came up was that it did need to go to the union, and so that was done. And so I handed it to Teamsters. They looked it over, and I didn't hear anything back about it.
Perfect.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Did our
doing that.
job.
the only one I don't know, because it's a new union, and so I did not, now that I'm thinking of this, I didn't send it to the police officers union specifically, but, so I don't know if it's in their handbook that I have to have that. I know Teamsters it did, but I don't know about the police now that I think about that. So,
Ask Hank.
I don't know.
He won't know.
I don't know
It
that
can't
he's
hurt
not
to
part of the
send it.
union.
Oh, he's not.
It can't hurt.
Correct, but I don't know if that needs to hold this up, I guess
I
is
don't-
all I'm saying.
I-
We've had it available.
We
and-
can just amend it if need be.
I don't think it's going to hold.
And what it would change, the only thing it would change on it is obviously I would change the date of when it was adopted on the document and officially send it out. So that would be the changes, which again, were mostly run through CIS because there was a lot of new updates from the
So it's just
2016 version that we were using.
Housekeeping type of
Amen.
updates.
Sir.
Okay, well, it sounds like we can proceed, and then if there's any hiccups, we can adjust then. So I'll call for the vote. Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd.
Kim, yes.
Okay. So we are finishing old business and moving on to new business. So,
Move to approve resolution 2025-05, updating resolution 2023-20, establishing a cap on STRs in residential zones.
Second.
any further discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. Counselor Lovendall?
Yes.
Oh, whoops, excuse me.
There's one small amendment that needs to be made
Okay.
in the ordinance or the resolution that all of you have. It says 21. Since the time the packet came out, there's been another one that's been approved, so it should be 22.
22.
2023-22, wait,
No, down
The
number.
The limit. We have
Oh,
22 currently.
copy,
So
copy,
instead
copy.
of- we're not going to kick one off.
Oh,
You're not going to. I
I
don't
see
do
what you're
anything.
saying. You threw me for a loop on that one.
Okay.
But that number 22 has been
22.
playing by the rules? I mean,
instead of 21.
but, okay, we're not making any exceptions for number 22, correct?
No.
You
Okay,
had, I mean,
all
they've
right.
already, they're on the books now when the cap
right.
was
Thank you.
higher, so.
It started at 40 or something, didn't it?
What did we allow, Greg, there? What was the final, was it number 27 or something like that?
Please come up,
Okay.
Greg, if you're going to say anything.
I believe it was 27.
Okay. So, but
Yeah,
we've
we've had
had
a few drop off.
22 lawful people
Right.
come forward and go through the process.
Correct.
Perfect.
And we're sending out, just so you know, for this coming year, the new paperwork is all going out
Okay.
so that they'll be able to do that. So we'll say that that's the ones that had it already
Okay.
are grandfathered in.
Okay.
And, you know, I would love to, after you guys do that or when you do that, if you could give us an update on just the number, the overall number of vacation rent or short-term rentals, because this is, our cap is in the residential zones only. It would be interesting to just know how many we have in our town.
I think we looked at, and even commercial, there was short-term rental in the commercial zone. So it
Really?
was just an interesting thing. One,
How about
There's
the
a-
10MU?
A lot in the 10 MU.
right, there's more in the 10
Which
MU,
is
but
sort
just
of
the
a-
straight commercial zone was kind of an
Okay.
interesting.
I can personally attest to the many in that zone.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, okay, well, it'd be interesting to know.
Good.
Okay, so I think we had
You did.
a first and a second, but can we vote on it with that minor
Yeah,
amendment?
so then I would amend my motion to include a correction,
Drop my second.
22 from 21.
Second.
Okay, so we've got it a first and a second with the amendment. I'll call for the vote. Counselor Pogwiz,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan, Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're moving on to new business B, which is declaring the city's election to receive state revenue.
Motion to approve 2025-06.
Second.
Any further discussion? I will call for the vote. Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Pogwiz,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're moving on to item 12C.
Move to approve resolution 2025-07 declaring utility fee increases.
Second.
Any further discussion here?
Yes, do we have to notify all of these idle accounts, and how much time do we give them leeway before we start charging them? How does that legally work?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
but I think it would start with you saying, yeah, this is what.
Absolutely.
So the fee increase, yes, but I don't know if it's the same.
Well, you have the idle accounts on here too.
Mhm.
Correct?
Yes.
So that's what I'm asking about, the idle accounts
Right.
that we don't typically charge.
Right.
But we have to give them a warning before we
Right.
start charging them. What is?
Right.
Are we
So
gonna-
I think we could decide what that would be as far as time limits. I think you can make the decision on the fee increase.
Oh, sure.
But then that specifically, I can start
Yeah.
sending letters out.
Well, I just don't know what the legalities would be on that. I mean, I know
Well,
our ordinances take place 30 days after we adopt
Yeah,
them.
well,
but
you know what? This matter is not by ordinance. This is sort of just like
I
a
realize
protocol,
that, but
yeah.
how would you like to be an idle account and not know? Do you see what I'm saying?
do,
I mean, they
yes.
have a right to know.
I think we have to send
We
out.
need to
a-
address idle accounts, I think, is what we need to do. Like the power company, they, you can't idle your account for, okay, let's see how I say it. You pay the connection fee, whatever that is, $38 or whatever that. If you're going to be disconnected for 12 months, then you can do it without a fee. But if you're going to be disconnected for 11 months, they charge you for 12. If you're going to be disconnected for 4 months, they charge you for 12. If you disconnect it. So that's kind of I think that there's a map to get to where we want on that. I'm probably pretty easy to follow. I know that that's not exactly what this is right here, but it
Yeah.
will inform
Addresses
that.
those things.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we do it legally.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I'm assuming you're going to get on and send out the letters to everybody and say, I mean, we can just give some guidance within, like starting whatever date seems reasonable within 30 days.
Within
Next
30
month,
days.
we're going to start
Seems reasonable.
charging that,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we have a change in policy.
yeah,
You're thinking of the existing idle accounts?
okay.
So
what you're
we're not talking about the public safety fee. We're
No,
talking
no,
about
this
the
is, no,
hookup fee.
this is,
Yeah.
it's not a
So-
hookup fee. It's that we have some people that for whatever reason, they turn them
Right. Yeah,
off.
it's to be connected to the,
system as a whole.
right. And that's just the same as power. Can we get that as a new business item for,
It's on here. It's
It's-
part of this, it's part of
well,
this.
for the entire? This addresses kind of part of it, doesn't it? This doesn't address the annual, like, what I'm suggesting is it, right now they can shut off without any recourse, right?
That's what it's been in the past, but there's a fee. if
There's a
you have
fee to restart. So it's
Right.
$180 when they go to restart it.
And that would be something like 4 months worth of,
Any amount of time that they
well, it
want.
would be the $180 would be
It's like 6
If we
months,
broke
right?
it
It's like a
down.
$40, $60.
a
Base
few
fees,
months
yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, I think that we could probably bring that into line with some other utilities that, because people are gauging that and they're using that to their advantage. And when you look at who those people are, and I don't dislike them or devalue them or anything, but they're not, my heart is with the old lady that can't afford to pay her bill.
Right.
Not the third homeowning person that decides to save $180.
Yeah.
Who lives in wherever. So,
Yeah. And that's what this is about, because what we realized is that there are a number of those accounts that aren't really contributing enough.
so
But it's a protocol. It's not like by ordinance, like that decision of how things were made. So we don't really have to change our code or anything. We just have to, I mean, it could have almost been just an administrative decision. I think staff just put it on here to give us the heads up
I
that
guess
that's.
I wasn't getting the whole gist of that then off of what I,
It has nothing, I mean, it's for people that are not here. And
understood.
they pay
understood.
because they still have to pay the infrastructure, their house is still,
Mhm,
so it makes perfect sense.
But we have that public safety piece of it that has this, doesn't address.
It's not part of this.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
This,
but that-
this, oh, so.
But so
you're-
we're
you're
facing
jumping-
that because we've got $12 a month, right? And if does it go to every address or does it go, but if they're hooked up to
This,
we started to talk about that and then we thought, well, if they're not here,
well, that will be a different topic. This is just for,
but it's the same kind
it
of.
is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wonder if we could, maybe do we,
do you want, are you
Trying to-
saying?
I was saying, I was,
Remove this one piece
You wanna
from it, like,
separate it
yes,
out.
the fees, but then that, make that a
I
different
was
thing.
thinking if we could clean it up or include it, it would just be one less document that we would have to that somebody has to try to read to figure out or whatever. I'm not married to the idea. There's a piece of it missing in my opinion, that we had discussed recently.
Well, I think it's here because it says, be it resolved that the city of, that idle accounts will be billed at the base rate. So that means that basically, as a result of that, every person who is on the water sewer system is going to get their bill every month and have to pay the base rate.
And have the $12 law enforcement.
And
Does it say the $12?
no,
No,
because
That's a whole separate thing. Because that's just getting added on.
but this part clears up the fact that we're not going to just let some people not
Right, right.
pay the utilities bills.
Or law enforcement would be the same.
It
Because of
seems
this, then
Yeah.
they will be charged the $12 fee.
Are there some idle accounts that have been idle accounts for like years and years and years and years? So those are the ones I was thinking we need to get the word out to.
Right, or I mean, I think we need to put the word out to all of the accounts, because some people have close them off because they're either gone or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean,
So
we need to
there
be
is,
obviously
whatever.
transparent about that, but
We also, when people are gone and their water thing breaks because they haven't turned it off, we're bummed out with them for that too. Like in the past, we've had the 200,000 gallons lost on King.
correct. And I think if if they're paying their base rate, but they still say, we want that actually turned off at the meter, we want that turned off so that it's not doing any dribble water that goes through it. If it's 10 gallons or 20 gallons, they're still going to pay for that. That maybe that right now they wouldn't necessarily have to because they have it as idle. So if someone could, if they were leaving, still have our public works people go turn it off for them and then turn it on when they get back, they will just have paid for that throughout because as I'm understanding it, the base rate is what you collect to pay for operations.
Mhm.
And that's, so every month our guys go and they have to check every single account to make sure there isn't a leak or that there's something on that other end. And so there are, and whoever is inputting all the things, you still have to input every account and input the idle account and make sure and do all those things. I mean, that just because they're off doesn't mean there's still not staff
No,
energy and efforts
right.
going toward it.
That's what the power company says too.
Amen.
you know?
And one thing
So-
I want, oh, sorry. keep
Yeah,
going.
no, I do want
guess
to
I
make sure
would-
that we do talk to these people and so then we wouldn't charge them obviously the $180 if they wanted to turn it off and turn it back on in 3 months or whatever, because they're paying every month
Right.
for the operations of the system.
Is 2,000 gallons?
Is the base.
Is the base rate.
So the only question I had about this is, do we want to even have the expression idle accounts in here? You know, do we want to come up with it? Basically, we're trying to say there's not going
It's
to
an
be
account,
idle
right?
accounts.
It's no longer.
It's just an account.
Right.
Yeah.
And they might have, it might be a,
So it might be that all accounts will be.
There's no
billed
such
base
thing
rate.
as an idle account.
Right.
anymore.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
all accounts will be billed at the base rate
Mhm.
is might be what we have to say
All
here.
water accounts will be billed at the base rate unless,
Yeah. Or all accounts, because it's, yeah.
all utility accounts.
And, we were talking about on the finance committee at some point, the idea of having a vacant home charge. And that turned out to be like a bigger project to figure out. But this is sort of just like the very basics of that, of recognizing, whoa, there's these empty houses that aren't really contributing. So this is sort of a way to tackle that issue a little bit, but to start.
Well,
We'll
I
keep
mean, I
working
guess
on
one
that.
could argue that they're paying their property tax.
Yeah, but that property tax doesn't help us with our water system.
Well, but they're not using, I mean, devil's advocate here, they're paying the property tax and they're not using that service. I just,
But their property value depends on our whole community having a water system, so
I
everybody
know,
has to have it.
but.
See, they're not
but
paying for their
it's-
water, okay, because they have the water turned off.
Because they're not buying any
Or
water.
in water, but
They're not buying any
we're
water.
still have to support the infrastructure that supports the house so that
I
when they come
understand.
back, their water can come on. I mean, it's just
understand. I
part
just-
of having, but I don't think, so that helps the city.
I understand how it helps the city. I just feel like that it's questionable, the morality of charging somebody something that they're not getting. So
They are, I
was-
think they're getting something, but I think what we should do at this point is do you want to further, do you want to discuss?
No, not
this further?
really.
Because I think we'll bring it up to the council if we figure a way to present it, and then we can talk about it then, if we're actually going to go for it or not.
You mean a vacation house
Vacant
rental?
house.
Yeah, okay. The second home tax, I guess, vacant house tax is what I meant to say. Okay, so we have a first and a second, I believe, but we made a minor amendment to change the word idle to all utility. So,
Who made the motion? I can't even remember.
I can't remember.
Brett Webb made
I
the
did.
motion, Tim Pogwitz seconds the motion.
Okay, I'll pull my second.
so can I entertain the motion to approve this with the minor amendment that all utility accounts will be billed at
Yeah,
the
I'll
base rate?
I'll amend that. I'll go for that amendment. I'm
Second,
Okay,
just a little bit more like, so I have a property where the power company is doing this to me and I'm pissed about it.
Mhm.
And like, I'm actually dealing with this right now and it sucks. And I'm given that option a year, or at least I have a choice that I can make. And so if somebody's going to be gone and they're not going to have their power on for, or their water on for a year or a year and a half or something, like,
But if we have this thing where the whole city, basically, I mean, this helps the whole city because we don't have enough money to pay for our water
Understand.
operations.
I
So it's
understand.
kind of like,
I
we
understand
all
the
have to,
position of the city,
yeah.
If they come back and there's no water,
but it's not
that,
like it's
that diminishes the value of
You're
the
talking
property.
about a house at the end of a mile-long road and there's nothing in between, then I would say that, yeah, that makes plenty of sense. But I just hate the idea of charging somebody for something that they don't get.
But can I say something to you?
Sure.
They pay for water when they get the water.
Mhm.
But they have a house
Mhm.
and they have services that are going to that house. And it needs to be kept up. And it is separate from paying for they're
Water
getting that.
usage.
They're getting the maintenance of our infrastructure for their house. And then when they turn off their water, then they're not paying for their water. It is, to me, just to me, two entirely separate things. That you are getting something for that base rate.
And it's keeping the value of your property up by
Wouldn't
there
the
being a
SDC
system.
Wouldn't your SDC be the same
No.
as that? That would be,
Your SDCs have to do with developing the system at a larger scale.
but that's health of the system in general. You're buying into a system. I'm,
Brett, I'm going to call for the
Yeah,
vote
go
just because I
ahead.
think
Go
everybody
ahead,
else
that's
is
fine.
ready for it. So
Yeah, it sounds like
I think we've had a good enough discussion.
sure.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Web no.
Okay. Okay, moving on then to item 12D. This is extending workers' compensation to city volunteers.
Motion to approve 2025-08, extending workers' compensation to our volunteers.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any further discussion?
I was curious, like if we have volunteers to clear Ray's Woods, would that be something that we would have to,
Yep.
we'd have to get 2 weeks ahead? Because that's
Yeah,
going to
this-
discourage those kind of projects.
But it's what people should be doing with those because it makes sure for our insurance that if we are having people volunteer to do things, then they are covered. This is policy of what we do and have done for a long time. We should have been updating this every year. So it's not really changing what we.
It's training too. I mean,
Supposed
it's
to be
safety
updated every year,
equipment.
and that's what we're trying to do, is to get back on how it ought to be. And so,
So if we want to clear the woods, we've got to pick a date and then tell you that these people are going to be,
correct?
yeah,
And
it's going to be a problem, I think, in having projects like that done.
we'll get it adapted to, Gary. I think that it definitely adds a layer to it of
Which there's enough layers already just to get it done.
there's
But
plenty of layers on
it's
that
what
one.
it is.
I agree. But so that gives, so, you know, there's supposed to be safety equipment and safety training, any tool that they're going to use, they need to be trained. That's the way that it's insurance.
Because we just won't do it. You know, we won't be able to do it is what I
don't
announced.
Well, the
definitely
question
agree.
is it, you have to do this if you want to be covered by insurance.
Right.
I mean, can people do it and not be covered by insurance, or is that
Can they sign
That's not-
something
a
that,
waiver?
They could go rogue and do it, but that would be going rogue.
Yeah,
because in
I'm
2
not going to
weeks,
sit here and tell people that if they want to do that, because if someone got hurt and got
Right.
damaged and they were volunteering and we didn't have this on here as a city, we would not be protected. So this is to protect the city and the volunteer, that if something happens while they're doing that, that they would be covered by that. And it's common. We've people who let us know, Dina calls and does it, and it's worked. So, I won't say that, sure, it'll be fine if people decide they don't want to be covered, because I'm not going to say that. 'Cause
Can you tell me, community service volunteers, I mean, I know what an inmate is, but the community service volunteers, is that
So there's like
people,
high school?
just high
I think it's,
school
I think it's
service
high school are
projects?
people that if they go and they have, you know,
Yeah,
2 weeks
in
community
community
service
service.
for something that probably, I would assume that
That's what
specific to like a judge mandated
you go.
something.
So I mean, we either adopt this and offer people coverage, or we don't adopt it and nobody gets coverage. So
And
what
then
I'm
the
trying,
city could be at risk then.
Yeah.
exactly.
No, I don't think we have much of a choice there on this one.
I was wondering if we could add the Port Orford Watershed Council to this list, because there are people who have been doing volunteer work at our bioswale and up in our,
I think it used to cover any and all volunteers regardless of what they were doing. We
But-
didn't even used to have to list.
I was going to say, do you need to have them on the list if they're not on the list, or?
I think it would be smart if we had a group that was, you know, looking to do this longer term, you know, maybe that the community beautification group as part of the Historical Preservation Commission or something within that, then they could have their names written down on a list. And if we knew when they were working, they would be covered. So I don't think it has to be,
Is
They're covered under item C,
The
or
geographical
7, I believe,
location.
man. Other volunteers,
unanticipated
okay.
volunteer
That's the
exposures.
2 week.
Right,
but they have to give a 2-week notice.
Okay, so they don't have to be listed.
no.
Okay,
They don't have to be, but they could. It's
it might be a nice thing
entirely up to you. It would be nice. I agree.
to just
seems like I
recognize.
remember something about the location of regarding the watershed. If the activities occurring outside of the city,
Uh-huh, okay.
I can't remember. It seems like there was some discussion about this in the past.
If it's not in city limits, if
Right,
it's up
if
in the
it's not.
watershed.
Right.
But it's on our land that we own,
I know, but,
might be. Okay,
I mean, I just,
Like something
maybe we
to
look
add,
at,
I don't think
call
it's,
CIS and see just to be
Okay.
sure that they would be covered and not to say that we
Yeah.
don't want them covered or that they
Well,
don't apply.
I
But
think they have another option possibly too, which would be with the watershed Curry Soil. But since they just mentioned they're going to be working down at the bioswale, it occurred to me that to not include them seems,
yeah, it should be on there.
so good.
well, I mean, since we have the Emergency Preparedness Committee and the Emergency Preparedness Committee is disbanding from there, could we replace that board with the Watershed Council? I'm just thinking if there's 7 committees covered, if we're taking one off, maybe we could put one on in that amendment. I don't know.
Is it billed as such?
Well, the watershed isn't a city entity, right?
It's not a city entity and all of these are, so maybe we just can leave it off and as other volunteers. Yeah,
We want to look into that, I think.
okay. Okay, we've got a
And
first,
like Rotary would be another one. They would have their own insurance. Is that, they did something for
yeah,
the
how
city?
does that work? Does Rotary use our insurance? Do they use their own insurance when they do projects?
I don't know. They tell Dina, and Dina's the one who makes the contact
Okay.
with CIS. So I don't know intimately what that process is, unfortunately.
Okay. So we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd.
Tim, yes.
Okay, now we're moving on to 12E, updating the city fee list.
So I had a question about the courts.
Mhm.
Those are in line with state, or with,
Yeah, and those,
it's,
yeah.
because that's tricky there. That's,
Well, and those, we didn't change those at all. This
Okay.
is what's existing because
Oh.
we are not going to change anything that has anything, because, you
oh,
know,
I see
they're,
now. I see how you did that. Okay.
yeah. So those are things that we don't have much purview over. Actually, I believe Judge Milliman, who's our municipal judge, could talk about amending those, but at this point, we want to leave it where it's at.
Did I miss records request fee? Is there,
I saw it.
is
The FOIA?
Copy.
I don't even know if it needs to be, but it can take quite a bit of time from staff.
Actually, that was one of my,
Good point.
that was one of
I
my
thought it was on the copy.
priorities, was to have a new FOIA policy.
We don't specifically have records request on there. It would be a combination, it would fall under research fees and code interpretations. And then for the physical copies, that would fall under the copies of 25 cents per page.
Perfect. If it's covered, that's awesome.
Wait, where is research fees and,
On
The last page of. that
oh, right, yeah.
has
Okay, got it.
additional Things that we don't currently charge for that other municipalities do. So those were recommendations coming from planning staff on other ways to potentially bring revenue for the work that I do.
And then on the very last sentence, just a spelling, it's granting permits.
Oh, granting permits, grading.
Rating. Thank you.
Okay, we did not, we kind of jumped straight to the discussion here, so
Get a motion.
I would
I'll move
entertain
to approve resolution 25-09, upgrading the city fee list.
I'll second it.
any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Pogwizd?
Yes, since there are so many changes on these and increases in all of these fees, can we see a spreadsheet after year one showing how much revenue this has raised?
A lot of these, well, I will say the planning things, we put to Crystal because she's the one who has Crystal Soji, our senior planner, because she knows, around the
Sure.
state what's happened. So many of these were her purview.
Yeah.
Many of the things that we've done with this are basically when Ann Heath, when we were doing our budgets and everything rolled up 3% for the revenues, that's what this is reflecting on many of them.
So we're gonna
So
have
not all of them.
So you're gonna do a 3% on a sign, on a sign fee every year?
No, not necessarily. And with the SDC fees, because those hadn't been changed in a long time, those were 5. But basically, her recommendation is to keep up with those things. And so we looked at, staff did research on what other municipalities around us did.
Can I see that research, please? Not tonight, but,
I think
okay.
I brought it to the finance committee, but you can absolutely.
Well, so I'm just looking, so a sign permit fee went up 5 times. It went from $5 to $25. How do we justify it going up 5 times?
It should be straight across the board. Everything went up. That's why you can easily figure the inflation into it. I mean, from the date of the last increase, but
No, I get that.
but to defend it, you would want to do it every year, moving forward as well.
So a person with a sign.
No, I get what you're saying. That's
doesn't
a
cost
500
The
times.
city of Port Orford a penny.
No, 300.
I mean, the city doesn't maintain it, and those kinds of things. So those kind of increases are just,
Well, and again, this is the recommendation. So if we want to say that.
no, I
that's not-
don't want to
that's not-
change it. I just want to understand it.
Well, I think some of these make more, like you're pointing out, some of these make more sense than others. And so this is the time to discuss it.
Yeah.
And just as general context, if you recall, we gave guidance to staff to say, please
Understood.
come back with fees that like you
Understood.
think reflect the cost. But if you have ideas, this is the moment where we can say,
No,
yeah, this
understand. I'm
one
just
doesn't
trying
make
to
sense.
understand it in my mind, how some of these things that have gone up, how they don't cost the city any extra staff time. So that's my only question.
Well, they
And
do that
again,
about-
I'm not trying to
that
get it
was-
reduced by no means. I know the
Right.
position we're in. I would like to see a revenue spreadsheet on this in a year because quite frankly, there's so many changes here. We keep being told by our consultant that these little things don't really make a difference. It looks like to me they're going to make a difference.
Right. And that's,
And I want to know what it is.
and that is the hope. And like I said before, with with this, that was also underneath the like planning, because that's part of the planning and the business and all those things. And so that was, I believe that was her recommendation.
Yeah.
For that
Okay.
too. So, but again, if I hear what you're saying though.
Nope. I don't have
I
a
think it was just
problem with
making it flat.
them. I just want to know what kind of revenue they're bringing in a year.
I
And
didn't really even realize you had an annual sign fee.
Yeah.
yeah, it's always, it's ridiculously low and it's just added onto the business license. But I think it's ridiculously low because it doesn't really cause a city any grief in my
You
opinion.
have to buy a permit, right?
Yeah, right.
The administration.
Isn't there
Well,
administrative
yeah,
costs?
yeah, but that's why they send it out on
Right.
the business
No, I- yeah,
license.
yeah.
They tack it on. And I think it's a little bit higher if your sign's bigger.
Bigger,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like the real estate signs, those aren't required.
No, I don't,
Right.
well, I don't think so. I mean, that could be interpreted.
That's why the minimum size,
Political
Ray
signs.
would know that
yes.
one, I'm sure, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you
political
feel
signs.
better about, I mean, to me, this is the one that is a little bit odd. I mean, would you feel better
We can
about
change it.
lowering this one?
No, I really, unless another counselor thinks we need to, I'm not gonna.
Well, I look at this and I see the rate of like a lot line vacation or a review going up $12, which is less
Yeah,
than 1%,
Yeah,
and up
I wasn't even sure why it
$988 to
should-
$1,000. But then, so the consistency,
Right.
you know, is defendable.
And then the subdivision was 10,200 on the second page of the rates changes. And we're changing it to 3,000 plus 200 a lot.
And I think the key also to that is where it says cost with the
Cost.
single asterisk. That if you go to the back, because where things really take a lot of the time is all these, when we process them and again, to research it or to go and write it all up and to do all that, that's what we haven't been doing. And so I believe Crystal and Joseph's thinking on this is, you know, one little, you know, I'll just use a row permit. It doesn't seem like it's very much to do, but then there could be, some things could take a lot of research and a lot of staff time to go in and lots of calls back and forth and lots of all that. And other ones might be, oh, not that much. And so
charging for
you
the
can charge it
actual.
for the size of the situation. So yeah, there's the fee to turn it in and to make this happen, but depending on the size of the lift or the size of the time commitment by staff will be calculated to that, which means we as a staff have to have protocol to say, you know, we need to keep track of our time that we're working on these individual things. And so that's going to be another piece of this.
So would it
We
be
need to-
charged in the rear after we know the actual hours?
Yeah, and that's, I think, how Crystal's been doing it. She keeps track. And this is the kind
Oh,
of thing
okay.
where she comes and has a, you know, pre-development conference and all those kinds of things. And
And before they get their final,
Yeah,
then
right.
they have to pay the,
And we have folks that would come and, you know, for example, ask Joseph a lot of questions about the thing that they're doing and what's happening and what's going on and whatever. And then just, it wouldn't charge anything for it, or it was $91. It could take him hours upon days
Yeah.
upon things to
That's
research and to do
because-
it. And it was like $91.
we just
So
didn't
it
have the
makes-
building though back in the day because we did review them, you know, a couple councils ago, but we had like one house being built a year, maybe,
Right.
you know.
And we're hopeful that here, you know,
Understood.
the idea is to move forward and that we will have more building and
Clearly
infrastructure.
defined online to where a guy in Arkansas should be able to not talk to Joseph and read what it's going to cost him. I mean, is that not kind of our fault? I guess we're not going to fix that right now. We're not talking about that right now.
Thank you.
But the point is that laws should be, rules, regulations, these things should be simple for the layman to understand. And
Mhm.
if someone has to talk that long to Joseph, then is the information not online or?
well, this
It's
is like,
online,
this
but
is
it's-
like interpreting your code. You're going to come in and you have to know what the order of things is. And if you're going to build a new
Yeah,
house
I
or a
understand.
subdivision or
I
something.
understand that. It just seems like
the more time they need of Joseph, then,
it would be better if they didn't need Joseph,
right.
right?
But that's on them. Either they know it or they don't. And they're going to pay if they don't know it.
Sometimes.
Because
he
it's
does.
costing the community.
But is it because of the language in our documents is not up to snuff. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
It's
not
because of the
well designed.
particular project. If it's a simple project,
You're saying, I
Not-
think you're saying the same things. Because I think you're right, and I think you're right. But a lot of our codes and a lot of the things are from the state and then even from the county. So I don't know that ours are so wildly out of whatever. I think it's just there, it's a more complex system and a situation than we had before.
Gotcha.
And so there are people with questions. And I would love it if it was very clear and very clean, but unfortunately, I believe the state and the county, we just don't have that luxury.
Gotcha.
Because they have to abide by all of those things too,
And
so they
then,
come here.
Okay.
And we just did that update to all those zoning amendments, and part of it was trying to clean up
Yeah,
the things
no,
that were a little bit
The wording.
unclear,
Yeah,
and so that we did do a good little update on that.
When was the last time that these were? Any idea?
I have no clue. That's not since I've been here, but I've only been here for a year and a half, so I can't really speak to that. But I think it's been a long time.
The fees were last looked at, I believe, in 2023, but not many of them were increased. The council basically saw it and voted and approved. But at that time, I didn't have the training to really give recommendations on planning fees, whereas now I felt a little more comfortable with it, and I've worked with it enough that I could give reasonable, amount of what those projects take.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. Yeah.
excellent.
And I think we have this idea of giving as we've gone through the budget crunch and the finance committee, realizing, that we've been in the habit of not really charging for things that take our staff time, and that we needed to.
And
We
my
need to think
question is
about things a little
really,
bit differently.
is it enough? It's kind of like the $12. What's $12? Like, was that 10 minutes of a man's time,
Joseph?
That's why I'm asking, when was it? Because if it was years ago, and maybe it should be more.
Can't speak for all of the increases, but in particular, the lot line adjustment review and lot line vacation, the reason it's only going up $12 is because it was already pretty high for what it is.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to increase it by as much as our other fees in order to bring it in line with what other municipalities charge.
Okay,
So
that
like,
helps.
same thing within that same section, subdivisions are technically decreasing in cost, but then adding the asterisk of you're paying for, staff time, but even with
Hourly.
staff time, $3,000 plus 200 a lot plus staff time isn't going to be $10,000 usually. So that and minor partitions are likely going to go down in cost because ours were higher than what other municipalities were charging.
It's just going to be more fair.
Thank you for
And that was per
doing that research.
Crystal too. I mean, that was the
Yeah.
thing. We
Yes.
put our basic a stab at it, and then we passed it to Crystal, and
Thank
she
you.
gave input.
Yes.
It-
I want to make that clear. I did review all the planning stuff with Crystal and we agreed and she even had some notes on it. So,
Mhm.
And there's the part of the discussion that's been happening everywhere about housing and stuff too, of like, you want your fees to not be a barrier. And so I guess that's, you don't want to have fees that are a barrier to housing development, but as a municipality, we have to make sure we're covering our costs. So that's the concept that we're
That's the
trying to
spirit.
get at. That's the spirit we're trying to get at. Okay, so any further discussions or amendments that people want to make here? Aside from changing granding to grading, which I think we can just consider as a little Scrivener's thing.
Can you explain to me what a home occupation permit, that's a business permit?
If you're working in home,
Occupation,
Joseph, Ken, I asked the same thing because I was like, what does this mean?
yeah.
a home occupation permit would be a permit for someone who is, basically got it working out of their house. It is more restrictive than normal business permits because, just as the general rule of thumb, you're not supposed to be able to tell from the outside that it's a business. So if you have tens of people coming and going every day, you can have the permit revoked. And the reason it's an additional fee is because it's another thing for us to have to keep track of and to make sure that people are abiding by the code.
So you're doing the business license plus the home occupation fee?
Yes, and Crystal's recommendation was actually to set that higher. We felt that it was $100 was too high, so we brought it down to 50 because that seemed more reasonable for the sorts of activities that people do, or the sorts of home occupations we have in town.
So are home occupations, does that include people who are like gig workers? You know, somebody who's a consultant that works, I'm thinking of people who work on computers for companies that are somewhere else.
So technically,
That was my
yes,
question too.
they're supposed to get a home occupation, but it's primarily going to be focused on people who have people coming and going from their house.
Working
So
in their
real estate-
garage or,
Yeah, like a real estate agent who has customers coming to their house if they're using their house as also their office, or a CPA who's meeting with clients.
Hairdressers.
folks-
So-
Someone has a
so-
small
so,
haircutting thing in the house.
My business is not in the city, right?
I-
My business is, I mean, my shop's out of the city and then the boat sells out of federal property. Okay. But I do my tax preparation, my paperwork, things like that in my home. Is that,
You're not in the city. And
well, no, but then the house is in the city. So where my home office is, I mean, that's to consider. I never did get, well, I've gotten it a couple times, but that was when I was doing some retail sales, but does that now require me to, would that
no,
just my, because it's business tax, I mean, I'm doing my, it's business.
But I think this is more like if I was a barber and I had a chair to cut someone's
Retailers.
hair in my garage or something, and I've converted that to be
So
a
do we
barber shop.
define these terms?
We don't, it says here, the following fees are for services we don't currently charge for, and home occupation permit is on there.
Right. So you could say we don't want to have that, and we could not have
Well,
that.
it says here, this document says we don't charge for those.
Yeah.
So we're not going to vote.
I thought,
Currently, we're voting on this document and we don't charge for home occupation. on
okay,
it.
so I read this as we were going to begin charging for these things.
That's what
Oh,
I read it as.
Well, I think they just threw these other items on, which we could consider, but we're not currently charging for a home occupation permit.
Right. So these were ones that, examples of things that we found in other municipalities.
Understood.
So the
Things that they
intention is
do.
not to include these in the fee structure?
I think the intent was to, again, this was staff recommendation to bring to you to say, does this make sense? You folks are the ones that set policy and you set these things. And so these were examples. So I think we should,
The motion was made to approve and that does not include this page.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But I think the intent was to include this page.
Yeah,
but I think,
this is what we don't currently do, but we will do.
so the heading probably should say,
That
these
we're
are ones that we
recommending.
recommend to add to our
Right.
current structure.
I like that there's a after the fact
Mhm,
fix it ticket.
mhm.
I think that that's righteous.
I also like the resubmittal fees and the conditional use permit fees. Because like, I think sometimes somebody starts, but then they come back again and you're kind of having to come back and go through the whole thing all over again, like 2 years later.
So the RV park fee, what is that? What,
So if someone wanted to have a brand new RV park, then they would, in order to do that, it would be $750, and then the cost that it would take to help them create that situation.
so it wouldn't be an annual fee, that would be like an application
time.
fee?
it would be an
These are-
application.
Like an application fee to do it.
And it needs a more specific application than just a conditional use because it was an item that had to be switched to outright use in some zoning. That was a state mandate, and Crystal thought it was best that we call out that there's just a, specific fee for it.
So then the home occupation permit, is that not annual? Because I would think that would be annual, right? But there's no delineation between this,
I don't know about this home occupation permit, just because I'm wondering what's the difference between that and a business license? Like, I mean, if you're paying your business license,
well, because it would be like, like the same thing as a short-term rental in a residential zone. Like now you're conducting business with, like retail business and,
Okay.
well, do you just say you can't do that because the zoning actually doesn't allow for it? Well, that's pretty cheap to circumvent all zoning. I would,
But are we gonna like, I mean, are we getting ourselves into trouble then if you're kind of like asking for somebody to pay you a fee to do something that's not maybe totally kosher, but
it would be like,
Well, I just want to say, because it might clear up some issues, we do have home occupation already defined in our code. So council would like me to read off that definition? I
please
can.
do, yeah.
Home occupation means a lawful occupation carried on within a dwelling or enclosure or a building accessory to a dwelling by members of a family occupying the dwelling as a residence, provided the residential character of the building is maintained and the occupation conducted in such a way as to not give an outward appearance of a business in the ordinary meaning of the term, except as provided in section 17, 16, 15, nor infringe upon the rights of the neighboring residents to enjoy the peaceful occupancy of their homes.
So it might be a solution looking for a problem. And if that's the case, then we can just strike it. And again, these were, or we can keep it. And
what would that, so.
We probably have a lot of people working out of their homes that don't.
Yeah, I think that's, of this list, I feel like that's the one that just seems like, it's kind of, might be a problem.
Seems a bit.
I don't even know how we even enforce it, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
right, exactly.
I mean, I don't
There's
see.
no way of us knowing really.
Are we on so the prior class made some changes to the business license fees. Is it a straight fee now, or is it?
It's on the first page, I think,
It
of
went to
this,
100.
or the
Currently-
second page of this thing.
currently, if the business makes less than $10,000 per year, it's a $25 fee. And if they make over $10,000 a year, it's a $100 fee.
You know, it's
Very
proposed to go
Very-
up.
And it's, so it's
Well, it
proposed to go to
changed a
50
lot.
and
That was-
150.
It changed a lot. That was a different critter. It was looked at it before, but
I think just maybe we should get rid of the home occupation permit and just keep it. I mean, because part of what, we've had this discussion about just trying to keep things simple too, because when we add administrative burden, we don't want to add administrative burden. So I think that one is in that
Does this
category.
cover if somebody is renting out a room in their house?
it has to be a family.
Long term.
Says the family in the.
Well, I think that's covered by the STR ordinance.
That wouldn't be in the STR.
Oh,
It
okay.
said, Joseph, didn't you say family members occupying the home?
It's, let me get it pulled back up. Home occupation means lawful occupation carried on within a dwelling or enclosure or building accessory to a dwelling by members of a family occupying the dwelling as a residence, provided the residential character of the building is
So it has to
maintained
be
and
family.
the
That's good, that's
occupation
good.
conducted in such a way as not to give the outward appearance of a business.
So that would have to be but my point is that if someone's making less than $10,000, then they're probably doing it from home. And that's just going to bump that up to 75, which is just barely below that next. I like to get rid of it, but only because it's just not as clearly defined as
Yeah.
The home,
Yeah.
Home occupation permit.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, but I think it needs a lot of work.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think we could come
usually
back.
we're
if
saying-
we
What
needed
it's
to.
worth.
A guy doing his taxes,
well, that was my question.
you see what I'm
doing it.
saying?
That's business.
Versus a guy selling firewood. I mean, there's a big difference there. If you're doing both out of a home, you're not really disturbing nobody, but the guy selling firewood might be disturbing.
He's got a wood splitter going and
Yeah, see, it's not defined properly to go ahead, but Joseph does have his hand up.
But it would be outdoor appearance, outward appearance would cover
That is
that.
covered under that, yes.
In this case, the person who's shopping and selling wood out of their house would have a home occupation permit revoked because it does have the outward appearance of, being a business, if it's clear that they're selling it. But as for the taxes question, if you're doing your own taxes, that is not a business. That is different than me saying, Commissioner Webb, I'll do your taxes. Why don't you come over to my house, park your car in front, and I have 3 other people coming by at 2:00. So you'll be at 2:30.
So what about, I mean, we've got.
Guys, I think
people-
it's easier to strike it at
More
this
pic-
point.
I mean, you can go on and on and on.
I think that we
I think
could.
we should just get rid of
I mean,
that.
You're selling drugs at home.
business.
Well, I mean, think about it.
Lawful occupation.
Well, we faced that with the
Hey.
cannabis stuff.
Medical?
Okay, so I think we
Why
should
we
just
shot people.
strike that one.
Yep, I concur.
And
Okay,
I
so
think
I
that,
think
would-
we could come back if there was a reason to down
Yeah.
the road.
So we're going to strike that, but adopt the rest of these?
I
Is
think
what
that's
I'm
the-
told. See,
that's-
I misread this document because it said the following fees we're not currently charging for. So,
Yeah, right. That's what I kind of, so I,
Right, well, I think the spirit of that was in the
okay,
2025,
suggesting
fiscal
that we
year
adopt all these.
2025, we haven't charged for them. These are ones that,
okay.
So-
these prices are based on other.
are
things.
any
That
of
could've been
these
clearer.
reoccurring? Are any of these annual fees? And if they are,
no.
okay.
And I think it
But
would
the home
be,
occupation one would have been.
would have been. I think would be good to clarify that for that RV park to say application fee or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clarify the language for that application fee for new RV park.
What has changed new address, $25? Am I missing something there?
I asked that too.
As if somebody builds a house in between.
Yeah, so if you have to change the maps and you were 482,
But that would be covered under a lot split, wouldn't it?
Not if they're converting their house into a duplex. We've also had issues where people, the address that was assigned to them is not the address that they've been going by. Really, it's the new address that's really where it would probably be charged. Once again, this is just what other municipalities do.
Okay.
So if the council doesn't want it,
City-
Well, I just wanted to
City
explain.
staff has got to go in and
Well, I mean, okay. It cost you time to do it, is what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay.
verify that the address isn't currently being used.
Understood.
Reach out to the assessors and to county planning to let them know that that lot has now been given the address, XYZ Maple Street.
Okay.
The after the fact permit fee, what is that including?
Which one was that?
the after the fact
Oh,
permit
yeah.
thing you like.
I like that though.
So that would be planning fees where someone engaged,
They added a room to their house and didn't,
someone added a room to their house or built something that isn't what they told us they were going to build, or only filed with county instead of filing with us. We're going to charge them the cost of the application plus an additional $500. Basically, so that way we just don't have to get involved
I like
with
it.
actually citing people for violating our code for not filing paperwork with us.
what about interest on something like that? I mean, you don't discover it for 10 years. And your taxes are assessed against that.
Every 20 years.
Said the snarky one.
But it would be, you would.
Not throwing anybody under the bus here,
Aggregate.
but that's part of our problem.
It is, I think so. But maybe we can look at that later, right? But if someone gets away with it for 10 years and they're not paying the increased property tax, then they look at this 500 and they're like, what's the risk? Maybe, maybe we ought to think about trying to rein that in. I've never been a fan of the way that those folks just got away with that because I never get away with anything.
Well,
I wonder if these are things that for planning, if these would be things that.
Like for
these are
home
planning issues.
occupation, shouldn't they have a business license?
yeah.
Okay.
It says needed in addition to business permit.
Yeah.
But we decided not to do the home occupation.
We did. We
Yeah.
did.
Correct?
But they, somewhere else, we have it said that they have to have a business license. Okay.
Which,
I just,
if you accept the increase, it would be, even if they made under $10,000, it would be $50 now rather than the 25.
Compliance is kind of a thing too,
work on that.
I
Okay.
guess,
And those are the hard things truly, like, we could make 1,000,006 rules,
right.
but then if we don't have the time to actually make the investigation to make sure to prove the point that this was happening and whatever.
Well,
then
if
we're just making it too complex.
70% of the people don't comply, then all of a sudden you've gone way backwards.
Well, most of these are, as we said, like a lot of these, especially on the last page, are basically planning things. And those are the kinds of things where somebody comes in and says, okay, this is what I want to do. And then Joseph can say, okay, this is what it's going to cost, So that's what a lot of these things are.
So then, Was I the one that made the motion for this?
I don't
This
know,
one,
Joseph,
Joseph?
who made this motion.
Motion was
A long time ago.
initially made by Gary Burns,
Gary Burns.
seconded by Sarah Lovendall.
So then I guess I would recommend, I'm ready to vote personally on it, if you would address this page in your motion.
So I'll rescind my motion
I'll rescind my second.
and I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 25-09, updating the city fees, omitting home occupation permit fee, and adding to the RV park cost that's a one-time fee for initiating
Application
plans
fee.
for application for RV park.
You gonna second that again, Sarah? I
Yes,
will.
because I have a question.
Oh.
Yes, I second it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Do you have any questions?
Did you have another question,
Well,
Sarah?
I'm just, under business license, we need to say that includes home occupation. Is that clear? I mean,
It says it, oh, okay,
you see what I'm saying?
there, yeah.
Have they been mailed out yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think-
All we would have to do is just say, put in a parenthesis that says including
Mhm.
home occupation. And is that how it's normally been?
It has it in there.
So
It says home occupation here.
home
Yeah.
occupation isn't something that we've been specifically drawing attention to.
Yeah.
But it's something that has been permitted through just normal business licenses.
Right, so we could say including STR, home occupation, et cetera, if we wanted to. It's just a matter of how it's presented publicly so people
That's
know.
right.
Like the
So
10
they know.
MU, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Like the 10 MU that was encouraged to have.
Yeah.
That we've been trying to encourage these home occupations.
Right.
Family upstairs, business downstairs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that would be, I think one thing we could just say in general to staff is when you make this up, the idea is to make it clear so that if you could just make that clear next to the business license to say you're including, just like you have there, STR home occupation, but getting, this sheet is going to get cleared up. So maybe think about that. Okay, we have a first and a second.
Just
Any-
quickly, one more thing, I'm sorry. The door hanger fee doesn't go up at all. And that's probably related to the cost of the employee who's gone up significantly since, when was this last? And I'm a guy that gets these things, so
You said that, not me.
right. So
So one of the thoughts on this was of the folks who have the ability to pay a lot of that, we didn't want to have a tax that, or a fee that would go after the folks that were kind of struggling anyway, is one side of looking at it. If, again, that was, we have increased the past due amount. Interesting thing, Gold Beach, if you're late on your bill, it's 15% of the bill additional. And so there was wide variety of monies that were part of that. So again, that was kind of
that would address
thinking. And what I would say though, on door hangers, since I've been here, we have maybe, when it really gets down to brass tacks with door hangers, we have like 3 or 4 a month. So it's not.
I've been getting one every month.
You have not lately been getting them every month. But what I'll say is that we've had fewer of those, and people have been doing a really, really good job of keeping up on their things. So,
And just because people might not know, the door hanger fee goes out if you're late paying, right? And you
yeah,
miss
if
your-
you're multiple months
Water's gonna get
behind,
turned off.
Yeah.
and it's a thing that says if you don't pay by tomorrow at X time, then it'll be turned off. And so, again, what I have seen is that there's been not even a handful in the months. So
I would entertain a motion to extend our meeting at this point.
That one on the floor here, we have to address.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to call for the vote on this one, and then we can do the next one.
Is it 8 already?
It's 7:35. Yeah.
Actually, it started at 5.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote for this and we'll discuss it. Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Okay. Now I will entertain a motion to extend the meeting.
So
I was doing
moved.
it at 7:30. I don't know if it's 2 hours after the meeting starts. but-
Well, it's a different meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have your motion.
First, second,
Second.
call for the vote. Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
Yes.
Counselor Pogwizd,
Yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Webb, yeah.
Okay.
Was that Webb yes or Webb?
Webb, yes.
Thank you.
Does anybody need a break or can we just plow
Gary does.
on here? Yeah.
Also use a quick break.
Does anybody else need to take a 5-minute break? Okay, so let's take a 5-minute break
Okie dokie.
and then we'll get back to the real.
So we're gonna get back to the vote on this thing, right?
No, we just did vote
We
on
did, we voted on the two things right now, right?
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. We are now on to item 12F, the ordinance establishing the public safety fee.
I'll move to pass the ordinance 2025-05 establishing a public safety fee.
Second?
So I've got some,
Any discussion?
yes.
Okay.
I have a question. Okay, is this fee for just this year? Or is this fee going to be until we can have a levy?
So that's kind of what I saw too, sir. This says, is the best mechanism to generate the long-term and stable revenue needed to cover. That's wasn't my understanding.
Yeah, and I would propose that we get rid of I would get rid of the long-term and stable. I would propose that we just cut that. Because where this initially came from is we took an ordinance that was in other cities, but I think that I would propose that we remove
So we're gonna strike.
long-term and stable. I have that on my list to do. And Sarah, your question is, I think that there's a couple of different ways we could do this. We could say it's just going to be 1 year. We could say that we're going to keep it until we have the time to turn it to the voters. Or we can, as it's written now, it basically says that we're going to review it basically every year at the budget. So it's kind of vague right now, which gives us the opportunity to do either of those things. So that's, but I think those are the options and that is the big.
We can discuss, I think, anytime whether we have an election next November.
We
Not
could
this one.
add to this, I mean, if you want to, we could add to this, that this will sunset at the time that a new levy is passed, or we can just have it that we
In
take
my
it up every
discussions
year.
with my constituents, I had expressed my desire to have a sunset on it. And then it could be voted in again.
Yeah,
Right?
talking to the microphone, yeah.
Yeah, no, so the sunset was important to me because what happens so often is these things are intended to be
Yeah.
short-term and then they just don't. They end up going on forever.
Yeah.
And that would make the levy more attractive because you could keep it at a lower rate, I suppose. But I think that we didn't want to do it that way. We wanted our folks to be able to tell us what they wanted to do with law enforcement.
Nick, would the only thing with, if we do that until the levy, would that 12, or are we just going to review it? Because that $12 might not work for the next fiscal year.
Well, when is the next general levy?
5 years.
No,
Our actual levy, if we were going to wait to do it, would be 5 years from the last one. So it would be like May of 2028.
Okay, so
Or it could be November of 2026.
what if we try to interrupt that at the next general election? Is that 2026?
Yeah.
November.
So I would sunset it till then. Well,
Yeah.
sunset it upon the passing of the levy in 2026.
Right,
I think we should do it in 2026.
Yeah.
Because it does two things. It ends this early if we can get that levy passed. And it also tells our public safety department that we passed a levy for 5 more years. Do you see what I'm saying? It jump starts us back to 5 more years in 2026 rather than waiting 3.5 years and have
It would be
that
the will of the
department
council.
worry, am I going to have a job in 3.5 years?
It would be the will of the council annually if that was the case. Because council could say, I don't want this anymore. But if it's locked, a majority of the council could next month vote this out of existence, right? That doesn't offer much stability to our.
And that's what we need to do is offer stability, in my opinion,
Mhm.
I think that's
to
a piece of this for sure.
our public safety department.
And the levy puts it on the property owner
Well,
rather than the residents.
it
It's
lets,
renting.
it lets the voters decide.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they've showed us 85% that they want policing, so I don't really see a problem. We're gonna have to really work on our numbers, whatever they may be.
Right.
We don't need to get into that right now.
I
No.
started doing a little bit of that, but I think I really like what you're saying, Tim, because, and I like tying it to the passage of it, because like if for some reason it doesn't pass,
We don't know what we're gonna have to.
we don't know what we're going to have to do. But it is my thought that our council will not want to just like not have a police department, so whatever it is, I mean, having the ability to have a fee temporarily does at least give us the ability to have the time to figure out something.
But if we're talking 2026, we got to get started on this levy. It's not something we can put on the back burner.
Yeah.
We got to get started on the education and move forward with it.
Yeah.
Because this is a Band-Aid,
Yeah.
Really?
This is
Yeah.
totally
in
a
my
Band-Aid.
opinion. And I personally, I've had the conversation with the mayor. I would see it as a Band-Aid. If I'm working in public safety, I would see it as it's a warning sign, almost, basically, right?
It would be great if we could run 2 levies, and one of them is permanent levy for.
And the other one fluctuates.
The other one is this $1.90 or whatever, and depending on the passage of the one, it could negate the other. You could, upon passage of levy number 2, levy number 1 becomes null and void or something,
There was something happening at the legislature. I don't know what happened to it, where they said something like, if you pass a levy or if you pass something 3 years in a row, then you could just make it permanent. Like if the voters passed it like
3 years or
3 times, or maybe it was 2 cycles. I forget. But the idea that if you pass it several cycles, that it could make it permanent. But I don't know what happened to that.
We had that one. Oh,
Earlier, yeah.
oh my gosh. That was
Well, I think the other thing, I mean, that's really important that we have to get this going. And the other thing I want to give voice to too is that I just want to say to those who weren't here, I think Councilor Brennan, you weren't here. We had a great, a very positive public meeting, town hall meeting about this issue where we had some good discussion and got some input. That we did have citizens bring up the concern about what about people who can't afford this. And one of the citizens volunteered to be on a committee to help us figure out if there's a way to come up with maybe a charitable way to help people. So I think 2 things that could happen in association with this are to encourage the formation of a citizen group that does that, and maybe a counselor could be part of that, and also city council committee to start working on the levy, because what you're saying is right, that we need lead time. We need to understand all this stuff. Preparing for that town hall meeting and for this fee has been like a crash course in doing a lot of that work, but we had to do it pretty quickly when we realized we were in such a hole. So having time will be super helpful.
Is there interest in the permanent levy? I mean, because we're the ones that would vote to put it on the ballot, right?
I don't know yet. I don't even know if that's
Is it-
possible yet.
Yeah,
Is it?
I think you can.
But then how would you have it go up? I mean,
Because we already have one that's permanent, don't we?
well, our permanent tax is a permanent tax, but we don't have a permanent levy.
And we can't change our permanent tax. So I wonder if what you're saying would exist, if it would be something that we would not be able to change in the future kind of thing, which we all know cost goes up.
Oh,
I mean,
that's a good point.
we didn't even, I mean, obviously we didn't forecast right for 5 years. for a
Well,
lot of
we
different
had,
reasons.
I don't think you can tie the two together. We had a failure of the levy and there was a
Right.
lot of confusion in the community. And we were able to eat a little bit of crow and get something passed, and it was a stopgap. It was a little bit less. I don't know how, what 10 cents a thousand, what that turned into.
Yeah, but it did
That's-
pass at 85%.
Yeah,
It's that
we'll see.
verbiage that messed everybody up.
It-
They
Well,
thought
I
it was
think-
2 taxes.
I don't think we should go into the discussion now of a permanent levy. I think what we need to do now is figure out exactly what you raised, which is if we want to put a sunset in here, how do we put in that language? I like what Tim said, something along the lines of,
Should be made by a monthly charge, which.
it's just like, where would it go? Let's just look, and then we could just say, establishment and imposition.
Mhm.
And then maybe we should put in a C that just says something like, this fee shall sunset upon passage of
The next
the
level.
next, of an adequate police levy or the next police levy.
I think that needs to be added.
So this fee, I'm just gonna write this down and we can see it. This fee shall sunset upon passage
Is there a,
of the next police levy or of an adequate or of the next police levy.
Whenever that is.
The next adequate police.
Yeah, because the levy will be able to decide what we want to put forward at, in the
Yes.
next.
it's interesting though, it also is, it's a way to sell it cheaper,
So what cheaper?
the levy, to the P, I mean,
Levy's
it's a
not gonna
crappy
be
way.
cheaper.
No. Hear me out. It's, you can offer it at a lower price and then stick this on the tail end of it. And I'm not advocating for that. What I'm saying is does that turn into what it really turns into?
I think the point is it would be either or, that
No,
if
no,
the adequate,
I get that, but what if they say no? If the people don't
well,
really,
then this was,
then we have a
possibly say-
chief that we still got to pay
Mhm.
and we have no response to anything.
Well, we just could immediately do a fee if that's what we decide, if the levy doesn't pass.
I have no, and that's what I'm saying. So what's that fee look like? Like $42 a month or something, to
Yeah, I mean, that is the alternative. It's like a levy or a fee. And, for the levy is great because we give people the opportunity to vote. But as I was saying earlier, as the elected officials, we also want to make sure our community has public safety. So we would be in a bind to figure out how we,
Go forward.
that's why I was wondering if there's a cap on what a person can charge for, or what a government can charge for a fee of this kind. Or,
I don't think
or
so.
you rob it from the water department and say it's a water department.
I think it was Jacksonville charged us $75 a month.
$79.
79.
And it's based on your income, so I don't know how they do that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
that's in Jacksonville.
yeah. Okay, so we have,
Our best bet is letting the citizens vote. to
I
be
do
honest with
too,
you.
yeah.
Oh,
I do.
Because they support us at 85% right now.
That's why I'm thinking you go to a permanent one,
Don't lie to them and tell them what we need and let them decide if we're going to move forward or not. That's it, period. And then we decide as a council if we decide to be Lakeside or we decide to force it upon our citizens, basically. I mean, we're going to have a big conversation about it. Because a city without public safety for some is a very scary place, because I don't know if you guys noticed at the town hall, I would say 80% of the people here were women. I didn't do an official count. I was just a scan with my
That's
eyes.
who Orford is, isn't it? 68-year-old women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
And the property values, and there's just a lot of reasons
they
why.
want,
Is
protection.
that not government's primary
Yeah,
service?
right.
In my opinion, that's what government does,
Right.
taxes people. And then everything else is kind of,
And I think there could be some way from this point on to be communicating with the community each month more about what our police department does for the community, and So it keeps it in people's minds and it just doesn't pop up next
So
year.
our city website, maybe our Facebook page, because Hank gives us a nice,
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's in,
That
it's
goes
in
into
the
the
paper.
paper
it
sometimes.
goes in the paper, but not everybody reads paper. I do,
yeah.
but a lot of folks don't. So maybe we can get it on our city, that police report on our city.
I don't know, so yes, and slash, but I know that Hank doesn't necessarily want all of those, I mean, they come specifically to us because sometimes I think we have
There's
to
a
be
press
careful about
release,
what's
too.
that there's, right, so maybe
So there's a
anything that would go
council
out on a press
report.
release
Right.
that
There's
would
two-
be on that would make sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so they get it. I don't.
Well, you're what? You're right. The council report you wouldn't want to share, but
Well, the council report looks almost identical to what I read in the
Right.
newspaper.
I think
In
so.
fact, the
it's not-
newspaper says a little bit more than what we get.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah,
there's.
And I don't know why that is.
maybe the
there's
published date
sensitivity
or
issues
something.
there.
So I think we should, I mean, this is part of what I would propose is that we, as I said, have a council committee to start working on the levy and all that. I know the last time Counselor Burns and I were the ones who did that. And if we could get some people who are interested to work on that, then those are some of the kind of discussions that could be had of like, what are the things we want to communicate and
How we communicate it, I think of, I'm sure Hank wants to help,
Yeah.
a more positive.
Yeah.
um,
And I
presence.
actually think we have a very nice website or webpage about community policing. That's good, but I don't think, as you're saying, Gary, that it doesn't get out there enough,
So do you have a sunset clause paragraph that you're happy
So
with?
I
You wanna
have
Go ahead
here,
and read it and then we'll
I
just,
have written down here, I want to just make two changes. We talked about, I would recommend getting rid of the long-term and stable on page 1. In the spirit of, in that same spirit, on page, oops, where is this other one? Oh, on page, under 1318.030, setting fees and other charges.
So back,
No, so it's like
Oh,
on
okay.
page, there's no page number
To
here.
the right.
It's 1318-030.
030B, I think we get rid of the word initial because this is not an initial, this is a thing.
Okay.
Get rid of initial. And then for the sunset clause, we add to 1318.020,
1318-020, okay.
we'd have establishment, imposition, and then C. So we have A as establishment, B as imposition, and then we'd have C and call that sunset.
yeah.
And then just say 1, this fee shall sunset upon passage of the next police levy.
The next adequate police levy.
Okay.
Next adequate police levy.
That puts some art into it though, like it's not like that's
It
Well,
makes it
just
sound
be-
it's a
tricky to me.
qualifier.
Next police levy, just leave it next police levy.
And just say the next police levy.
Because we don't want to run one that's inadequate, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's-
Joseph, did you have anything to say?
If we're striking adequate, then my recommendation is no longer significant.
Okay, so those are 3 changes that I think would work. And maybe actually to change it, the title from 1318.020 to establishment, imposition, and sunset.
and sunset.
And then that way we have that section nicely organized.
so I'll rescind my motion and make a motion to include those changes.
So to pass it with those
Pass it with
amendments.
those changes.
Do you have a second?
Yes, so if I'll give you your second,
Any further discussion?
Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote then. Counselor Lovendall,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan.
To avoid ethics stuff, I'm recusing.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Pogwizd.
Jim, yes.
Okay. We did that. That's a big thing. So thank you all. There's actually a lot of big things tonight. Okay, now we're moving on to the supplemental budget resolution.
That was to cover the grants that we
Yes.
received.
Yep.
Then,
which are identified here in the whereases.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 2025-10 supplemental budget
Second,
year 2020.
second.
Wait a second.
Budget year
Wait,
2026.
That's not right. Yeah.
No, that's correct. 2025. You're
Right.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Supplementing last year's.
Last
budget.
year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
That is true.
But not this year's, not 26?
The changes have already, you haven't adopted the 26 yet fully?
Gotcha, okay.
So we were able to make the changes in
Very good, very
2026. Okay, so we got a first and a second. I'll call for the vote. Counselor Brennan.
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
Yes.
Counselor Pogwiz.
Tim, yes.
Counselor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're going on to the next thing, establishing the tax rate, employee wages, and adopting the fiscal 26 budget.
I move to approve resolution 2025-11, establishing the tax rate, employee wages, and adopting the 2026 budget.
Second,
Any discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. Counselor Brennan.
Yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Counselor Burns.
yes.
Counselor Webb.
Webb, yes.
Counselor Pogwiz.
Tim, yes.
Okay. We are to the end of our business. And so we are moving on to to citizen consideration. Yes, oh, excuse me.
You added an item to the
Oh,
agenda. added
thank
it
you.
to the Agenda.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Forgot that. Okay. Yes, so this item was added to the agenda, which is we've had this discussion back and forth of, do we want all city right-of-way licenses to come to council for a decision? Or shall we defer it to staff to make the decisions and trust their judgment unless they feel like they need to bring it to us?
I would make a motion to send the city right-of-ways back to staff.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, I'll call. Oh, yes.
I would just say that if there's any controversy that could be based on this, because you are the, sort of visionary long-term things, I will bring them to you. And then thoughts would be to bring them to you.
It's amazing. Some of these are important ones. you know.
Absolutely.
Do we need
And if
to
it's
just be made aware, like in your report?
I could do that, yeah.
Yeah, the right-of-ways though, so the beauty of the right-of-way is we can give a right-of-way tomorrow and take it back the day after that.
Yeah.
So we have full control of the right-of-ways, in my opinion, as a body. We may not approve them or deny them, but we could fix them if we don't like them.
Oh, in blood, yeah.
Yep,
In blood.
we could fix them ASAP, so.
Well, I think the guidance that part of the thing is that these come up, and then sometimes if they come up, it's kind of like the liquor license things. If people are waiting,
Yeah.
they have to wait a
Yeah,
month
So
or whatever.
The last one I would say was something like Dollar General. Who let Dollar General in here without talking to the council? Or, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that happens. And
It was an outright use.
That was
right,
not what you-
but I'm not saying
Yeah.
that.
No, I know.
An example would be like, are we gonna let McDonald's in here now? You know, that type of thing. When it's more of a vision, it's more visionary than,
And that's where I think that's where, Melissa, I guess as you're saying, you would make the judgment of if you think it falls into that category, you'd bring it to us. And if not, because a lot of these are kind of,
Well, right-of-way use and
condition.
McDonald's is two
Yeah,
different
those
things.
are different.
Well,
That
yeah,
has
no,
to
no,
go
no, I just, right,
Yeah, no, I get it.
Joseph.
To answer or address Councilor Webb's concern, part of the housing revision that was just passed by the council includes the establishment of type 2 procedures. So if a large chain were to come and try and build a building, if it gets to a certain size, then it would become something that could come to the council if any of the neighbors oppose it being, built where it's being developed.
good. We had the vacation of so remember the Dollar family? So there was a dollar store gonna go in.
Supposedly, yeah, I didn't really hear, I don't.
And then it
understand.
went to council or planning, right? Because there was, Titchener needed to be, or was it Washington? One of them had right-of-way use agreements already where their backyards were part of the right-of-way or something. So they needed to vacate those right-of-ways, and those persons didn't want to vacate the right-of-way. And because of that, it didn't come to fruition, that's my understanding.
I recall hearing about it, but I don't recall any of the specifics.
I
But
spoke with the manager at the time, and that was what they told me, yeah. And so I just,
I think this is more, the things that we get are someone that maybe wants to build a fence and then they
I
need to ask,
understand. I
you know, or if
completely
they want to put gravel on their,
but this included Washington or whatever, the undeveloped piece of Washington.
yeah,
So that would, because if there's already that right-of-way use in there, I understand it.
So the question is just, do we make it,
That's good.
make these
Thank you for that.
administrative decisions to be more efficient for council meetings and such, unless it is a matter in which that we want to bring it. So I'm going to call for a vote. We have a first and a second. Counselor Pogwizd,
Tim, yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Webb,
Webb, yes.
Counselor Lovendall.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you have a first and second?
Yes, we did. We had a first and a second
I'm just
from
making sure I
those
did, okay.
Gary and, or Tim and
I made the
Gary.
motion.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so now we are moving on to citizen considerations. Yes, Mr. Thielen, please come up to the dais.
Greg Thielen, 165 23rd Street here in Port Orford. And I just wanted to say thank you to you all for taking care of all this
Thank you.
business. I mean, you've done 2 hearings, 4 ordinances, and 8 resolutions. I've never seen this body do anything anywhere near that. The chair is running a really great meeting.
Thank you.
This is like a really great team. Y'all are awesome, and thank you so much. It's really gratifying to me to be a citizen here and see things really happening. I want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Greg.
welcome, and you did a fantastic
Yes.
job.
Oh
on
my
planning.
gosh, yeah, you set the stage. I think you weren't here a couple of weeks ago when I think someone recognized that the Planning Commission did so much legwork that enabled us to carry it on with the.
I
with the
thanked you
zoning
after you left, Greg. I'm sorry.
He's gone. I'll compliment him.
amendments. Okay, do we have any citizens, other citizens in the room or online that would like to come make a comment under citizen considerations?
I'm seeing no one commenting or raising their hand.
Okay, next up, we have staff considerations.
The only staff consideration I would have is to just shout out the Port Orford Jubilee and these very fancy sweatshirts. So these are on sale for $40 a piece to support our turnaround. Yeah, to see they're pretty swaggy, pretty good. Just turn you around, turn your around there, Vanna. See, there you go.
There we go.
Good.
Keep the
Joseph.
sparks alive in 2025.
All
That's
right.
great. That's a really
We
cool.
got to worry about this guy going to the Price is Right.
Telling ya. Make a magic gesture.
I think I could pull off a lot of those costumes. Aren't quite my style.
They're sketchy. I
I
just,
got to get a couple of those coffee mugs.
yeah, so I think they're cool. And
Where
again,
they at?
well, I got mine from Jen Bailey.
Okay.
So, and I think, was it Tasty Kate's? Maybe they were selling there too?
Coastal Swag.
Coastal
So,
Swag, maybe?
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that they'll also be at the actual Jubilee event. You should be able to get them.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just want to say thank you. Mostly it's to say thank you to the crew who have stepped in to continue that tradition. It's amazing. It's wonderful. We have lots of people that come, and it's a crowning jewel of this town, and I really appreciate them doing that. So
The Jubilee is a thankless job. They work so hard to make 5,000 people happy on the 4th of July. And it looks like 5,000 people when I
At
look
least.
down the road.
at least, yeah,
Yeah.
It would be interesting to know how many
It would
people
be
actually
interesting
come.
to know. It would
you
be.
can go out there with your clicker. Pogwizd. Okay,
Okay.
Tasty Kate's on
Thank
Wednesdays.
you.
Thank you. Yes.
And we did discuss the right-of-ways, the 2 right-of-ways, right?
Well, no, we
Well,
don't need to.
We don't need to, unless, I mean,
Oh, we're
unless,
just going to let the staff, just
Yeah.
the way this.
if you think the right of ways,
my-
will you bring
so-
these right of ways that you shared with us? Would you want to bring them to us or not?
The only one that, one of them, no. One of them, yes, because it has to do, sorry.
Already.
The one that you had a copy of was to put like a sidewalk out into the right of way in front of the Cove. So down Fifth Street.
Where?
Battle Rock,
So by
Gary Rock.
Poss, Gary Robertson's
So what we were gonna do. is
Lodging
we-
house?
We talked about just putting that one onto the agenda we're having another meeting on Monday.
So we talked about doing it.
Because
on Monday.
we have to do the second reading of the supplemental budget and the public safety fee. We have to do the second reading of two things to get them done before the end,
Okay.
before June 30th. So that's why we have this special session next Monday at 5:30, and it should be pretty darn quick. But we were thinking we could just put that right of way, because this is the first time any of us have seen it. Melissa passed
Okay.
it out.
Right, that's what, so we kind of had to get those guidelines. And so we got it to you today so you can have the weekend to read it and hopefully.
So that's Monday at what time?
Monday at
5:30.
5:30.
Monday at 5:30.
Right back here.
Yep, Monday.
That will be coming out tonight after this meeting.
Okay.
And so then
It's going to be that right away, and what else?
it's going to be that right of way. It's going
Public
to
safety.
the public safety fee and the supplemental budget, I think. I have
Okay.
here
And then
the
it's on-
draft. What else is there?
Another formal vote on the actual budget.
The actual budget,
Okay.
yeah.
And then there was one more.
Okay.
item that I added.
Public safety fee, supplemental budget.
Second reading of the DLCD housing.
Oh, right, yeah.
You
right.
approved it, but
Right.
it's only had one reading,
Understood.
so I figured a second
Okay.
reading at the next meeting would just get it.
Thank you.
taken care of before the fiscal year ends.
Thank
So we
you.
can just bang through this.
Okay, I've got it right
Do
here.
we
in my
have to
Okay.
Read it, but can we read it by title?
That's why it's two readings. If we were to just pass it as days, we'd have to read it in its entirety.
Right, so we could actually forego that meeting if we read it.
There are three other items that need to be
Three-
addressed.
yeah, we
If
gotta
we're already
do it right
waiting
away.
for them,
All right.
we may as well just do it to make it a little bit quicker for the council.
And if we had to do the housing one, that would be like
I have to
hours.
Read the entirety of the code.
No, I thought it was 3 readings.
Two.
Unless you read it.
It's 2 by title or 1 in full in case of emergency. I'm 95% certain.
We've read them in full, but to read that housing code one in would be,
That would be a tough one. Yeah.
Yep.
I
that would
might
be a
have to
tough one.
charge you hazard pay on that. I don't know if I'd be doing too much talking the next day.
Okay, moving on here, we have the next item is counselor considerations.
Oh, man, I had something. Oh, I would, you go ahead, Sarah. You go right ahead.
No.
Oh, no, it was in my, my report on the port. The dredging didn't occur last year.
Right.
And that had caused some hardships, and the contract has been awarded for
Oh, good.
dredging.
Okay.
And they'll be here in a couple weeks.
Oh, wow.
great.
A week, actually less,
Wow.
25th, 27th, something
Kudos.
like that.
That's great.
Excellent.
Excellent.
That's great.
Good.
That's good news. It's been
That's
It
needed.
is
pretty
within-
sandy down there.
It's interesting though.
Pretty
is
low
that
tide.
They do soundings, and then the job's described in the contract and the contract's bid on, but usually when there's that much sand in there, it's in the range of 40,000 cubic yards. And this contract was awarded for like 22,000 cubic yards. So it's either not as bad as we think, or somebody made a big old mistake.
Or the tides have changed.
I'm just not gonna say nothing.
Tides are changing.
And it looks like it's lower than it is, but it
Okay.
looks like it's low to me.
It is.
I mean, there's a lot of sand up there. It
There
looks like
is, that's why.
low tide all the time.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is mayor considerations. And so I want to just follow up a little bit on what Mr. Thalen had to say, which is that this meeting represents the culmination of a tremendous amount of work that we've done on this body, by this body and the Planning Commission. Like so many different things. We've passed ordinances 1 through 11 tonight. These are things we've worked on for months. And so I just really want to thank you all. I know that people put in tremendous attention and time to the housing, to the employee handbook, to a lot of these pieces. A lot of them had work outside. And so it's a good start to the first half of the year. We've accomplished a lot of stuff. And so anyway, just want to acknowledge that. And onward we will press
And onward we press.
into the
Yes.
second half of the year.
And to your leadership too, because you've been helping
Keep pushing things
push
along.
things along for sure. So,
Well, it kind of needed to happen. So anyway, okay. So with that, thank you all. We have our special session we already discussed next Monday at 5:30. If you cannot make it, please let me know because it's going to be really important for us to have a quorum for that meeting, because we're going to finish up these business items. And then we will be back here after everybody hopefully has a happy July 4th and in mid-July.
and city offices will be closed tomorrow for the federal holiday. So
Oh, yes,
be
that's
aware
right.
of that.
I mentioned Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Okay, excellent. With that, we're going to adjourn the meeting at 8:20.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yay.